This edition of Where Did the Road Go is sponsored by Tim, Allison Cook, Eric Hervin, and Super Inframan. If you want to learn how you can sponsor the show, go to wheredidtheroadgo.com. And now our show.
Transmission start. Welcome to Where Did the Road Go? Join us as we wander off the path and explore lost history, consciousness, the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, alternative thought, and much more. We are present on the web at wheredidtheroadgo.com. Now here is your host, Seriah.
A quick note before we get to tonight's show. I am putting this up early instead of on the normal semi-schedule that I have because there is a special event Mike is hosting on Sunday night, the 16th. So I figured I'll get this up there. He talks about it at the end of this interview. So if you're interested, you can check that out, and it won't be coming out after it's already happened. Okay, and now into the show. Welcome to this edition of Where Did the Road Go? Tonight, I have as my guest Mr. Mike Familant. How you doing, Mike?
Good. What's up, everybody?
And you are a part of the Sussex County Bigfoot group. And Sussex County is where?
Sussex County is in northwestern New Jersey. It's kind of like, I describe it as the armpit between New York and Pennsylvania.
Ah, okay. Is it, and how far is it from, like, say, like the Pine Barrens and stuff like that?
The Pine Barrens is the complete opposite end of the state. So
Okay.
You're looking at about 2.5 hours down in the Pine Barrens. We're about 45 minutes west of New York City.
Okay, so you're closer to, like, the Adirondacks.
No, they're about 6 hours away.
Oh, okay.
Catskills.
Catskills. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. Yes, Catskills. So it's in that general area?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. And you started this group.
I did. Yeah, I started it back. I think it was 2014 or so. I was living in Florida, and then I moved back up to Jersey, and I was like, I got into the Bigfooting thing when I was down there, and I was like, well, let's see if there's any Bigfoot sightings up in Sussex County where I moved back home. And lo and behold, there was a ton of them. So I decided to start that Sussex County Bigfoot group, and then just kind of grew from there.
Okay. And how many people are in the group?
Oh, now you're going to have to making me go on Facebook now.
Well, roughly.
Right now in the public group, we have, over 350 members.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how many of those members actually go out with you when you do, like, hunts and stuff?
Excuse me. So I have my own private group, and those are people that I've kind of hand-selected, that I've met and interviewed, and people who are really into researching, and they get invited to our private group, which has all the expeditions and stuff and filming stuff that we do on it. And in there's about 30 people or so, and I'd say each expedition we have maybe, 3 to 10 people.
Okay.
And we call them expeditions instead of hunts because we're not actually hunting for this thing. We're kind of researching.
Fair enough. How did you get into all this stuff to begin with? Were you interested in it as a kid?
No, not at all. As a kid, I was actually very indoor video game. The outside never really appealed to me too much. And then I moved down to Florida, and I was staying down in the Bradenton, Sarasota area. I got a job at a beach resort down there, so it was very nice. Best job I've ever had. And I was watching Finding Bigfoot on TV, and I was bored, so I went online, and it said, buy these tickets and come out on an expedition with us. So I was like, okay. I was engaged at the time. I was like, okay, I've never been camping before, but I'm going to buy these tickets, and me and my ex-fiance, we're going to go, take a little vacation type thing. Mm-hmm. So we broke up in the meantime before the expedition, and I moved from Bradenton to Sarasota, from Bradenton to Tampa, and I worked on the ambulance there. And the tickets are non-refundable, and I paid a lot of money for these things.
Right.
So here I am stuck. I want to go, and there's another ticket. So I'm trying to, brand new at this company, working on the ambulance. So finally, like the date's getting closer and closer, and one of my partners, his name's Jimmy. He's one of my best friends today. I asked him, I'm like, hey Jimmy, he was kind of weird, and he's got it like a funny kind of strange personality. So I was like, okay, this guy may actually come with me. So I was like, let me ask him. So I asked him, Jimmy, I got this, these tickets, go up, North Florida, look for Bigfoot. And he's like, I've always wanted to do that. And then boom, instant friendship. And we went up there, and that's where I actually had my first experience up there, was on my first ever Bigfooting and first ever camping trip up in North Florida.
So what happened? What was your first experience?
Well, we were camping with this organization, and there were a lot of people there. There was probably like 60 or so people there, and so it was kind of weird. We didn't know anybody. They all were friends, so we didn't know anybody. We camped at the far end of the campground, away from these guys, because like we didn't know. We were thinking about like these guys got to be weird if they're out looking for Bigfoot. And then I was like, crap, we're doing the same thing. So, but anyways, we camped a little bit away from them, and we went through the whole expedition. It was 3 nights, 4 days. The first 2 nights, even the third night, nothing happened. We saw a Florida panther on the thermal imaging camera, which is really cool. They're like highly endangered. But nothing happened. Nothing Bigfooty really happened. So then it was the last night. It was a Saturday night, and there was a meteor shower. So me and my buddy Jimmy, we were up, we're camping. It's like 3:00 in the morning, and we're just talking and watching this amazing meteor shower. Being from the city of Tampa, you don't really get any celestial events out there too much with all the light pollution. So it was really nice to kind of sit back and relax and talk and build this friendship that we have today. And then like we heard a tree knock, and I didn't know much about Bigfooting at the time, but I knew like a tree knock meant like there could be a Bigfoot around. I was like, we both heard it, and we're like, oh, that's all right, cool. And then my initial thought was like, oh, we paid a lot of money, so there's the people have to be doing this, so that's how they keep getting people to come back, is they're kind of like hoaxing us or whatever. And then I was like, okay, I could get on board with that. I see. And then maybe a minute later, there was a tree knock from the complete opposite side, and it was a lot further away. So I'm like, oh, wow, all right. That's cool. These guys are, I didn't think it was Bigfoot at all. I thought it was just, some random 2 guys in the woods trying to get people excited. Mm-hmm. And then maybe 15 minutes later, we're sitting there, and then like I'd say a little smaller than a fist, like almost like a baseball size, little smaller rock lands about 10 feet away from us, and you hear it come through the trees, you hear it hitting branches and the leaves, and it lands with a thud about 10 feet away from us. And that's when like reality hit me that, okay, we're camping in the middle of nowhere with people that we don't know, and we just got a rock thrown at us. So I'm like, my buddy Jimmy, I get scared. Again, this is my first time ever camping, ever like really in the woods. And I'm like, screw this. I'm not, this isn't kosher. This isn't okay with me right now. So my buddy's like, well, if you want to get your stuff and sleep in your car. And then by the time he said car, I was in my tent, and I grabbed everything and I was running towards the car. And then he was like, Mike, he's like, this is Bigfoot are known to throw rocks too. So I was like, he's like, Mike, why don't you just enjoy it? This is why we came out here, like to try to find a Bigfoot, and now we got this Bigfoot stuff going on. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. He kind of talked me out of being really scared. And over the course of about 15 minutes, 4 more rocks that size landed within 5 to 10 feet of us.
How big were the rocks?
Again, they were smaller than a like a baseball, bigger than a golf ball.
Okay.
So, and again, all of these, you could hear them come through the trees, which I want to emphasize that because a little later on in the story, you'll see why. So my buddy's like, after the fifth rock got thrown, he's like, I'm thinking it's somebody still. I'm thinking like, okay, it's either a Bigfoot or a person. And if it's a person, these guys are really like that's kind of like, they got some cojones on them for, throwing rocks this close to us. Like, I could see a tree knock or two, but throwing rocks at, people on an expedition that you're in charge of, I was like, wow, okay. But then I started thinking, I'm like, well, what if it's a Bigfoot? Like, what if it's actually like this creature that at this point, I don't know if it exists or not. What if it is actually Bigfoot? So my buddy's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a rock back at it. And I said, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, I don't think that's not going to end well. Let's look at the scenarios here. Like, either you're going to piss off a Bigfoot or you're going to like knock somebody out with, like a person. Like, it doesn't have a good way of ending. So, he throws a rock back, one of the ones that were thrown at us, he throws it back towards the direction, and you could obviously tell that it didn't get the trajectory and the distance that the rocks that were being thrown at us did. They were coming like down through the trees. This kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but if you can kind of tell, like, Jimmy didn't have anything on whatever was throwing these rocks. So I knew right after that, because about 10 seconds later, I knew it wasn't a person, because a boulder size of like a coffee mug, not a coffee mug, but the thing you make your coffee in, whatever.
Coffee machine, yeah.
Yeah.
Coffee maker.
A rock about that size landed about, the same spot, about 10 feet away from us. And I knew right then and there that is not a person throwing that, because you could hear the same trajectory coming through the trees, except this one you could really hear it. And then it landed again with a thud. And so, then everything stopped after that. Nothing else happened. Woke up the next morning. I didn't really sleep, but the next morning we get up, and some people, we told people like what happened, and they're like, oh yeah, haha, these kids from the city, from Tampa, coming out and never been camping before, sure. And so then we go back to our site, and we're kind of looking at these rocks and where they came from, because we had a good general direction, because like I said, you could hear them come through the trees. And we did some like rough measurements and stuff, and I brought them home, and I drew out the area, because I was like really intrigued by this. And I came to the conclusion that the rocks, because of the topography and the terrain and where we were camping, we were kind of camping on this knoll, and then it dropped off down into this little stream, and then rose back up after that. So anyways, whatever was throwing the rocks that came through the trees at the trajectory that they came through had to be at least 250 yards away. I'm going to say more like 300, but I'm going to be, I'm going to say 250 to make it that's like the closest that thing could have been. So I don't know who can throw a rock that big.
Did you pick up any of the rocks that were thrown?
Oh yeah, I still have them. Yep.
Were they warm when you picked them up?
I don't remember. Honestly, okay. I don't remember. I have a story a little bit when we get into like my encounters and stuff. I have a cool story about that. But yeah, at that time, I can't tell you if they were warm or not. I think my emotions were just so high at that point.
Oh, sure. It's a small detail.
Yeah. Yep. So and then, I got home from that trip, and like I said, I did some research, and me and my buddy Jimmy, we went out a couple more times by ourselves. We didn't, go with any organization or group. We kind of just, I researched where there were sightings, and we went there, and there were some cool things that we had happen when I was down in Florida. So and then that, you have these things happen to you that you can't explain, and that's they don't happen every time and they don't happen often, but they happen enough where, for me anyway, it keeps me going.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, like that's why, and that was back in 2011, and here, 9 years later, I'm planning these expeditions to go out and film and, do these things, to try to find evidence of a Bigfoot. Like there's something out there. I would be more surprised if there wasn't a Bigfoot type creature in North America than if there was.
Okay. All right. And you have a YouTube show called In the Shadow of Big Redeye.
Correct. Yep. That's
okay.
So what happened with that was, I have a background in kind of video production. So I was going out on these expeditions, and I was watching all the shows on TV. And the big one that comes to mind that's not on anymore is Finding Bigfoot. And, going and doing these expeditions, myself personally and with my friends and stuff, I'm like, man, what they show on TV is totally not what an expedition is really like. Like they show, it's made for TV, and I can't blame the production crew and the editors and stuff. That's it's made for TV. I get it. But I wanted to make a show that showed what it was really like to go out and look for Bigfoot. Like, not just the exciting parts of doing a call, every 2 minutes like it shows that they do on TV, but that's not what happens. That's not what, at least when I go out, that's not what I do. We don't do a lot of calls at all. But I wanted to show, originally it was to get people interested in the possibility of a Bigfoot, but then I quickly kind of shifted focus on that, and now the show encompasses more of the idea to just get outside. I don't care if you go Bigfooting or not. Just get outside and, off the couch and go out with your family and take a hike or see something, cool outside. Breathe in the fresh air and enjoy nature. That's what the gist of the show is just trying to get people to explore and try something new that they, haven't tried before. And it's very personal to me, because that's exactly why I got into this, is because I went camping for the first time ever. And if I didn't do that, who knows, I'd probably still be playing video games. I don't know.
So it obviously had a big impact on your life.
Of course. Absolutely.
So when you were a kid, were you interested in other paranormal stuff, or was that stuff just not on your radar?
I can't say I was. I don't even remember really watching any of the TVs on or the shows on TV about any paranormal stuff. I mean, trying to think before I got into this. No, I like I said, I played SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs on PlayStation 2 for all day, every day. And that was my thing. I didn't really put too much thought into, if someone asked me about Bigfoot, I would give the reaction that a lot of people give me, and that's, yeah, maybe, never put too much thought into it, or you're crazy or something like that. And same thing with paranormal and UFOs. I never really put too much emphasis on thinking about it, because it's not something that applied to my life at that point.
Okay. So you named the show In the Shadow of Redeye, or Big Redeye. Why Redeye?
Well, that is, Big Redeye is, so Bigfoot has different names kind of throughout the country. In Ohio, it's like the Grassman. Florida, Skunk Ape. Mm-hmm. Out in Washington and Oregon, it's Sasquatch. And there's different local names all over the country. So in Sussex County, it's called Big Redeye. And that is, in the 70s, a state park ranger went on record and said he saw 2 sets of big glowing red eyes at night while he was doing a hike, one of his patrols, I guess, around an area in High Point State Park, which is up in Sussex County. And I think that was in 1972 or 74 or something like that. I think it was 72. And then from there, it just became, that was the local legend. People started going on record and admitting that they've seen these things for years with glowing red eyes. I don't think the eyes glow. That's another topic that gets brought up to me all the time. I think they reflect, but that's not the point of the story. And that's so I decided, when I first made the show, I was like, okay, well, we're going to keep it kind of local and Bigfoot related. So let's do In the Shadow of Big Redeye, because we were always like a step behind in the shadow. We get evidence, but we never see them. We're always close, but no cigar type thing. So in the Shadow of Big Redeye just fit really well.
Okay. And there are some cases where it seems like the eyes are glowing, and others where it seems like it's almost definitely a reflection.
Yeah, I mean, I just this past filming season we were down in West Virginia, and I met up with a couple researchers down there, and they were explaining their encounters, and they're excuse me, they're so level-headed and so legit about their research, and they're not crazy people. I've met a lot of crazy people doing this, and let me tell you, these guys are, like I would hang out with them type of thing. Like, they're awesome. So I believe everything that they say. I have no reason not to. And they were telling me stories like how a Bigfoot can kind of like turn on and off this glowing. It's called bioluminescence, and it was very interesting. And I can't say that I can't say I believe in it because I've never seen it.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it's not true. I mean, in my experience, I've seen eye shine, and that's what I think it is eye shine. And I think that's the all animals have them. Every animal has them except humans.
Yeah.
You go and look at your dog in the dark or whatever, where there's a little bit of light, and you'll see whatever. And I've seen that in Florida, and I've seen it up in New Jersey, and it's I think even just like the smallest, like even little sliver of the moon could cause the eyes to reflect, and I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think there's no primates that we know of that can light up their eyes through bioluminescence. So I believe that a Bigfoot is like a flesh and blood animal. There's people that believe otherwise, that they could be linked to some sort of paranormal thing. They could be interdimensional and shapeshift, and some people believe that they're related to UFOs. I don't go down that kind of road. I like I said, I think they're flesh and blood. But at the same time, I think if you even have an opinion on the subject, that you're ahead of a lot of people. So I can't fault anybody. No, seriously, I can't fault anybody for, I don't want anybody to think that my idea is the right way and everybody else is wrong. It's not. We don't know. There's no experts about this thing. Nobody knows anything about them, quite frankly.
Right.
And as long as you have a belief in it, then you're doing something right,
Well, I kind of approach it as these things have been seen throughout history, like everywhere. No matter where you go, you look back through history, you see Bigfoot reports. They're not called Bigfoot, obviously, but these things have been with us as far as we have any kind of records.
Absolutely.
And obviously, before that, it's not like they started with recorded records. So there's something that people are experiencing. What that is a little harder to pinpoint because, we don't have a physical Bigfoot to examine. It doesn't mean there's not physical Bigfoot. It just me, I'm kind of the opinion that some of these encounters are definitely not what they seem, and others may be a physical Bigfoot. Because I almost wonder if there's something about the paranormal that seems to mimic things. And I think in some cases, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a mimic of actual Bigfoot, and that's where you get the more paranormal aspects. But that doesn't mean there's not a physical creature out there.
I mean, that's possible. That kind of goes against my belief. But I mean, like I said, anything's possible. I think that you're right when you say they're seeing things that aren't Bigfoots. I think there's a ton of misidentifications.
Oh yeah.
I think 99% of everybody that says that they've ever seen a Bigfoot is probably either misidentification with a person or a bear or something like that, or were hoaxed and didn't know it, or were hoaxing themselves just to try to get some fame or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's probably 95 to 99% of the reports. But then you get that 1% that it's like, wow, crap. You can't rule out 100% of things. So it's that 1% that when I interview witnesses and stuff like that, it's like, wow, I'm looking for that 1% that it couldn't be anything else. There, that thing has to be something. There's something out there, and that's what that's the cool thing about it is you can rule out 99%, but there's never that 100%.
Well, what have been some of your most outstanding experiences doing this?
Oh man. First and foremost, really, it's the people that I've met doing this. Like I said, I've met a lot of crazy people throughout my journeys. Especially with the show, I'm blessed to be able to go to different places and conferences and speak and meet a lot of people through the internet and a lot of people that are serious about this. And a lot of them, like I said, a lot of are bat crap crazy. But there are a good majority of people that I really hang on to. I met some of my best friends, like I said, my best friend Jimmy, who I originally met, down in Tampa, doing this. And there's people that I've met that have become closer to me than my best friends are, and I could share things with them, and that's what it is for me. It's not about finding Bigfoot. It's the experience about going about it and meeting people and that kind of stuff. But if you're talking more about like what have I encountered, that would be the craziest thing. Happened up in Whitehall, New York, and this was I think 4 years ago now. I think it was. We were up there, and Whitehall is a very historic place for Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
There's you Google it. There's a ton of information about it. But
Seth Breedlove did one of his movies about it as well.
Yeah. Yep. Beast of Whitehall, or one of them.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I have it sitting somewhere. But anyway, so we went up there, and this is I think our second or third time up there, and we Whitehall is a very interesting place to go bigfooting because there's a lot of farm, but it's not a big area. So we kind of found this little niche in between some areas that have had sightings. So we decided to, let's go down this trail, and you can't find the trail on any map. It's not there. You got to know, you got to know where it is to go there, and just to be able to find it, really. So we go down this trail. We split into two teams. The team one went first. They didn't have any cameras. All they had was a voice recorder and a flashlight. So it was two people, and they went into this area, and we were behind them a little bit, so we didn't get to experience this, but it was all caught on voice recorder, which is the cool part about it. They got surrounded by Bigfoot, and they were, I think, really close to them, and they were throwing rocks. You could hear the rocks on the audio. They were breaking branches. You can hear footfalls, which it's very intimidating, and it scared the crap out of them. And I think a Bigfoot, and I give them credit for staying because they stayed there and they recorded the whole thing on voice recorder. And then by the time we got there with the FLIR thermal imaging camera and our night vision cameras, the activity had stopped. But that's probably the most interesting thing, because when I went back and listened to that audio, it's crazy. You can hear that if you watch I think it's the Return to Whitehall episode on my YouTube channel, and you can hear I break it down kind of from that team's audio, and you could hear everything that goes on, and it's absolutely insane. And we were out there middle of the night. If it was a person, they had to have like night vision goggles. They had to be, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no way a person will get that close to you, especially up there, because like everybody has guns up there, so they don't know. If it was a person, they don't know if we're carrying.
They'd also have to know that you were there in the first place. Right,
exactly. Yeah. And they have to know that we were going to that location, to that unmarked trail at that time, at that day. We don't tell anybody where we're going prior to these expeditions. Like, only my private group is privy to that information. And even then, I don't update it until last minute for the campsite and the hikes that we're going to do. So, because I've had people hoax me before. I've told people where we're going, and they've unfortunately called their friends over and messed with the investigation. So ever since then, I was like, no, I'm not going to tell anybody. It's not going to be public knowledge. I'm going to tell an emergency contact where I'm going, and that's it. So it for it to be a person that, highly
unlikely.
Yeah. You can't rule it out, but it's I mean, 1%.
And so, would you say that's the one of the more dramatic things that's happened? Well, you weren't, but you didn't actually experience that.
No, my team did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just listen to the audio though. That was close enough for me. I don't know what I would have done if I was on that team. I would have. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. And I think they got that activity too, is because they didn't have any camera gear. I think that might have had something to do with it, but I don't know too much about that. But anyways, yeah. To me though, like, I mean, one of the really cool encounters that we had. We were in the Green Swamp in Florida. It was actually Colt Creek State Park in Central Florida, and me and my buddy Jimmy and a couple other people. Me and Jimmy decided to go for a night hike, and we're hiking along these trails, and again, we in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you look up the Green Swamp in Florida, it's just this big, vast area of nothing. And we're in that, and we're walking around, and my buddy Jimmy has a big floodlight, so he's shining it all around, and I'm doing vocalizations and stuff, and just having a good time, and all of a sudden, Jimmy's light reflects off these two pairs of eye shine, and he took the light away from it, and then they kind of you didn't see him anymore. You put the light back on it, and there they were. And the one pair to the left was light blue. And I'm never going to forget the color. I actually found the color when I was working as a graphic designer doing vinyl prints, and I took a piece of that because as soon as I saw it, it brought up these emotions like, oh my God, that's the same exact color that we saw. So when I do presentations now, I bring that, which is cool. And then the other set of eyes was like fire red. Kind of like red orangish almost. So, we sat there and we looked at them, and at that point, I didn't know that people didn't have eye shine. So we think they're like, they're poachers, looking to hunt at night. So we're like yelling to them, hey, we'll leave you alone. Sorry, Mm-hmm. And then, they didn't say anything. They just stood there just looking back at us, and that was creepy. So we're just sitting there looking and nothing. What are you gonna do? Like, just looking at it, and it was probably 30 seconds. It seemed like 10 minutes. We were just kind of looking back. Both of us were staring, at these eyes, and then the pair of blue eyes turned, because the one eye disappeared. Turned, looked at the other set of eyes who were still looking back at us, then turned back. So now you see both light blue eyes, and then blinked, and then we were out of there. I am not athletic, and I don't run, but I ran, and we have it on audio recorder, which is hilarious. But my buddy Jimmy, he was smart, because before we started running, he put a rock in the middle of this trail. So he, in return, he marked it. So the next morning we went back out there, and we did like a recreation, kind of like you would see him do on TV. And these eyes were like 8 feet tall. I raised my arm up as far as I could, and that's where you could see that the eyes were. Like I said, we had that floodlight, so we had a good gauge of. We saw like they were behind this palmetto frond, and they were like right above it, and that's how we could gauge how tall it was. And people say, oh well, it could have been something on the palmetto frond, but the thing is, it's I thought it was an owl, to be honest. At first I was like, okay, what kind of has that kind of weird, like spooky kind of eyes that just looks back at you and then blinks, like owl, and so getting home after that, there was nothing that could have went up on that branch, because the branch would have broke. It's people that don't live in the South, kind of, it's not like a tree branch. It's like a I don't know. It's like a bush type of thing. So nothing can really hold weight on it. So an owl wouldn't be able to, let's say, sit on one of these things without it breaking. So I get back and I start doing research, and again, this is after the first camping trip, obviously, and I come to the conclusion that there's no known animal that has blue eye shine. So it's like, come on. You know, I'm kind of glad I didn't know that at the time because, there would have been some underwear changes that trip. But yeah, and like I said, it's just that small stuff. It's like, that was pretty intense. That was one of the more intense encounters.
Even with the spotlight, though, you couldn't see anything but the eyes?
No, it was dark. That's the thing. They were far enough away that you could see the eyes clear as day. They lit up like the ball drop in New York City. Like, you could see them clear as day, but everything else, it was kind of, like I said, the below the chest area, which would have been the chest area, depending on, judging by how high the eyes were, it was kind of hidden by palmetto fronds and bush. So you wouldn't be able to see that anyway, but you couldn't even see like the outline of the figure. You could just see the eyes. That's like right on, like right how borderline the light was and how far away they were. We ended up measuring it about 75 yards.
Okay. Now you just released an episode. Was it the other night?
Yeah. Yep.
And South Fork State Park, Ohio?
Salt Fork. Yeah. Salt Fork.
So what happened on that one?
Nothing too much. We were actually coming from another filming expedition and a conference down in Ohio. So I've always wanted to go to Salt Fork. So we ended up only being able to spend one night there, which was very unfortunate. We were lucky enough that I was able to kind of use my flirtation skills a little bit to schmooze us into the group campsite, even though we weren't really supposed to be there because we didn't really have a group. We just had like a regular, there were 3 of us. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, we got into the group campsite and there's nobody else there, which was amazing because everybody that I talked to said, go to the group campsite. So I was like, okay, that's where the activity is. That's where we're gonna, camp. So we ended up being able to camp there. And like I said, nobody else was there. It was awesome. And we did something a little different this trip. We kind of had, we did our normal hikes around and stuff like that. But 3 weeks prior to us filming the episode, there was a lady, her name is Amy. She's a good friend now. We met at the first expedition down there. And she was saying that she was camping there about 3 weeks prior to us filming, and wasn't like a branch, but like a log, was thrown and hit a porta-john that was where she was camping. And what's interesting is like it's hard to describe the layout, but these porta-johns are in the middle of a field. This whole place is a big field, and there's trees around kind of in the middle of it, but there's nothing that this didn't come from one of the trees. This is out in the open, right? And it was a big, she described it as like a heavy branch, like part of like a tree, not just a branch, but part of like a tree. And it was thrown from apparently the woods, she says, and hit the porta-john, and boom. So that, I was like, and that was 3 weeks before this. So I was like, we got to go up there, So we get the group campsite, we set up and we do this kind of thing, like an isolation session it was. And I've always wanted to try it. Never really gotten the opportunity to, except when solo camping. But it was cool because my buddy Sean Wagner, who runs a group called Central Pennsylvania Investigators, he was out with me. He also helps me with the show. He's a good friend of mine. And he has this ability to like live stream on Facebook, which I don't have the ability to do when we're out in the woods. So he has like this whole big setup. So what we did was we picked a picnic table right next to these porta-johns, and Sean sat out there for 20 minutes, and then I sat out there for 20 minutes. And what was cool is like us at base camp, we were watching him live on Facebook actually. So you could see and hear everything that he saw and heard, which is really cool. It took Squatching to like a totally different level. It was awesome. But if you watch the show, you'll see, excuse me, Sean, when Sean was out there, there were, a lot of things fell from the trees. There were the nut trees around. I think they were walnuts. There were a lot fallen. So we kind of had to distinguish them. But there's this one when Sean was when he was sitting out there by himself, there was this one bang that is clear as day. You can hear it on the audio, even on YouTube. It's clear as day. You might have to use headphones to really hear it. But it was like this hollow knocking sound, like a big just knock. And, it sounded blatantly different than the nuts falling and making a thud on the ground. This had strength, and it had like this hollowness behind it. I don't know how else to describe it besides that it was obviously not something that just happens. It's not organic. It's not something falling. This was intentional. And then, so Sean, it was awesome that he picked it up. And then, I went out there and I got eaten alive by mosquitoes. I'm still quivering just thinking about that trip. And I thought I heard a knock too, but I don't know what it was. I think it might have been something falling, like the walnuts. But I love that area, man. That was one of the coolest places that we've been, just because of the history behind it. Like, there's sightings. It's funny, a day after I released that video, that episode, I'm looking on Facebook, and there's a new video out of Salt Fork with a Bigfoot walking, and it's ironic that it was released, that my episode came out and then the day later that came out. It's kind of just ironic. But there's activity. A lot of activity. There's a ton of reports, and it's still very active. Each year they have a big, huge conference called the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, where people come from all over the United States to meet up and network with other people that are interested in the subject. It's really neat. It's a great place. It's beautiful out there.
What differences do you find in the different areas you're going? Like, is the activity more or less the same, or do you find different things in different areas?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I know. So my research, a lot of research that I do is kind of local to Northwest New Jersey, and I found that the Bigfoots here are very quiet. They almost never vocalize. They do. I did get a really good howl from High Point State Park, but they're quiet. They do more tree knocks and whistles here than I think they do elsewhere. And I think Bigfoot are intelligent to the point they know that they have to be quiet or else they're going to be found. So you look at New Jersey. New Jersey is the most densely populated state, and I think these Bigfoot, where we go Bigfooting, there's nobody. But I think, like, you can't go a day without crossing a road type of thing. If you're just hiking like straight in the woods, you're going to cross a road at some point. So it's not like super vast areas. It's not like, the Pacific Northwest, where you have hundreds and thousands of acres of nothing, where the Bigfoot do vocalize. I've never been out there, but I've noticed that people say that, like, in Ohio, that the Bigfoots are more aggressive. I've noticed that, like this, just like we talked about before up in Whitehall, that was a very an aggressive encounter. I don't know. I think Bigfoots are all the same species. I think they're related. I think they're just kind of like humans. We look kind of different and we act different, and some of us are mean and nasty, and some people are very polite and quiet and nice. I think that's the same thing with the Bigfoot. I think you have there's got to be some sort of, if there's intelligence, there's personality. So right. There's got to be some sort of something that probably has something to do with it.
Now you've seen eyes. Have you ever actually seen the full physical Bigfoot?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't. And it's I want to say the closest I've been, and I don't even know if this was Bigfoot or not, but we were down in the Pine Barrens in South Jersey, and walking along this river that we found tracks on since then, but this was our first time down there, and we walked. It was rainy, overcast, foggy, muddy, cold. It was very cold, and we were just walking on the side of this mud river bank. And my buddy, we get like 2 or 3 miles from the road. I couldn't tell you how far, but it was a hike. And little side note to the story: be careful, anybody that's listening. If you're walking along the side of a river, like my buddy, he was closest to the river. I was walking right next to him, and I'm a little bit ahead of him, and all I hear is flump, and I look back, and legit, I'm not even joking. He's up to his chest in mud. Like if he was by himself, there's no way he could have got out there by himself. So it's like always hiking a pair. That's another thing. If you're solo hiking, stick to the trails. But because we weren't on a trail, we were just on the side of this river. But we got him out of there, and then we kept going a little bit. He was cold, and I was like, oh, let's just make it up to this curve, and then we'll head back. And we get up there, and he's like, do you see that? Do you see that? And I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't see anything. And this is before I started filming the show, but I had excuse me, I had a digital camera, and I started just snapping photos one after another, because I don't know what he's looking at. I'm trying to find out what he's looking at, but I'm just snapping away. And then he this is all over like 15 seconds, and then he says it disappears. I'm like, man, I wish I saw what you saw. So we go back, and he gets changed. I'm uploading these pictures to my laptop, and he was looking at this thing that was way down the river, and what you could see is like it's very pixelized, and it's blob squatchy. If it is a Bigfoot, it wouldn't even be considered even close to anything tangible evidence of anything. This is very well could have been a deer. I don't know. That's why I say I don't know if I've seen one. But there was a rock, and you zoom in, and there's nothing at this rock for like the first 2 pictures, and then all of a sudden you see like this cone shape kind of top of a head thing. It comes up from the top of this rock and then stays there for 2 pictures, and then there's a picture of it like going down behind this rock again, and then that's it. And I don't know what that was. Like I said, it could have been a deer, could have been a Bigfoot. I have no idea. And that's what he says he saw. He saw, before I started taking the pictures, he actually saw the figure. So I was like, wish I had that camera out a little bit quicker, but yeah. So no, do I know that I've seen one? No. Do I think I've been close to one? Absolutely. But actually physically seeing one, that's the only thing that I have yet to check off my list when it comes to looking for Bigfoot.
What other kind of stuff have you encountered in the woods? Like, have you had other weird experiences that wouldn't be Bigfoot related?
Yeah. The one really weird thing was, well, I've never told this to anybody that wasn't on the expedition, but we were in Bald Eagle State Forest in Pennsylvania, and we were just driving down the roads. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning, just driving down the roads, and there was somebody just standing in the middle of the road, and like he just stood there and looked at us. And I'm not into really paranormal stuff. I've never given it too much thought. I'm actually going on my first ever ghost investigation this coming week, so I'm really excited about it. But it was, I think it was like a physical person. I rolled down my window and I said like, "Hey, you okay?" And he kind of like walked off to the side of the road, and then we just kind of continued on. He didn't say anything. That was really scary, and that was kind of close to our campsite. So that was like a real issue. We didn't sleep that night.
Yeah.
But
sometimes people can be more scary than the unknown.
Well, and that's the thing, people ask me what I'm scared of in the woods, and it's never coyotes, it's never bear. It's the things that scare me in the woods are people first and foremost, ticks, and spiders. Those are the 3 things: people, ticks, and spiders. Everything else, I could deal with, but those people is definitely the thing. I found just in the middle of the woods, like middle of the woods. I'm going like off trail. Okay. Like I'm sure people have been there before, but I'm just walking just leisurely through the middle of the woods. And I come across like, women's panties and I'm like, what in the world? Like that, come on. In the middle of nowhere. Like that. Wow, man. But I don't know. This is also out in Bald Eagle too. I think that we saw a UFO.
Okay.
It wasn't anything crazy. It zigzagged. It was far away. It was just a solid light, kind of like a faraway plane. Didn't have any flashing lights on it or anything. And we were sitting there waiting for another person to come to the expedition. And me and Christina, we were just sitting there looking at it, and it started zigzagging across the sky. I'm like, Christina, I think that's a UFO. And she's like, I think it is too. And we just kind of were like, wow, that was really strange. And and another kind of UFO story happened like when we were in High Point State Park again. And like I said, we go to this area all the time because it's so close and it's so active. We're along this gas line in High Point State Park, and I'm looking up and I see this kind of almost the same thing. This light that travels, and I don't know if it was my eyes playing tricks on me. I don't know, because it was dark, and I don't know. But this light kind of like makes like M shapes as it goes across the sky, turning back and forth and back and forth. And then, I kind of brought up before how people believe that UFOs and Bigfoots are kind of related. And I say that I've never experienced that, but this kind of goes against what I just said, because like right after that, maybe 15, 20 minutes, we're sitting there, and I do a barred owl call. They're one of my favorite animals to hear when I'm out in the woods, because you can actually talk to them. It's really cool. And we get the best Bigfoot vocalization ever. One of the best that we've ever captured. So it's like UFO 15 minutes later, Bigfoot vocalization. And it's like, man, that's not enough for me to say that they're connected, because I can't even prove that was a UFO, let alone, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But those were the two kind of weird anomalies and like I said, I never got into the paranormal. I'm an EMT, and I was working at the senior living facility, and definitely something paranormal happened there. But I've never focused my attention and energy on UFOs or paranormal, because I'm stuck on Bigfoot right now. I think maybe when I actually see a Bigfoot for myself, then I'll get into that kind of stuff. Maybe. I don't know.
Can you talk about the paranormal thing as an EMT?
Okay, so there was this one building. This facility that I worked at, I think it had like 8 buildings, and there's this one building. When I first started working there, everybody's like, "Oh, it's haunted. The building's haunted." And I'm like, "Ah, what do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, you go on an emergency call as an EMT, and you're walking to the elevator, and the elevator door will just open for you randomly." And I'm like, okay, whatever, and that's, no, that was it. It was very matter of fact. Didn't talk about it for a year, didn't even think about it. And then one night, I'm working an overtime shift. It was overnight, and we get a call to this building, and I'm, it's just another call. I'm not, there was plenty of them a day, so it was nothing special, nothing serious. And I rounded this corner to this building, and both elevator doors at the same time open for me. This is at 1:00 in the morning. So I'm like, no, everybody's asleep, whatever. I'm like, come on, and I got this sense of like that the hair just stood up on the back of my neck, and I'm like, oh, come on, and it only happened when people were going on emergency calls. It didn't happen every time, but this both at the same time. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then, so a totally different incident happened. Same building. I'm at the top floor, and this is like a hotel, kind of like the layout is very similar to a hotel. So I was in the hallway. There's no windows. Okay. Top floor. I think there were 5 floors. Everybody's in their room. I can guarantee you everybody was in their room, because we have this, there was this system there. It's like a latch system. So if somebody, it's a complicated process, but if somebody didn't open their door in the morning, then we would know that we'd have to go in and check on it and make sure that they're okay and didn't fall or something like that. All the latches I had just finished that floor. All the latches were complete and done. You would know if somebody opened their door. Let's put it that way, right?
Right.
So I'm taking the elevator down. I had just finished that building. I'm taking the elevator down, and the best way I can describe it is like it looked like car lights that kind of, if you're like sitting watching TV, you can and you're on the lower floor, and you could kind of see like when a car turns and it kind of glares almost. Mm-hmm. This happened right in front of me, like kind of onto, it came from my left, and it came like right onto the elevator and then disappeared. And there were, fifth floor, no windows. So it's like, what, like, and in the same building too. And then all of a sudden, like that I got that feeling again. And I don't, like I said, that's probably just my nerves, but those were the two incidents there that is like, man, like, what could that be? No idea. No idea.
And lights, as we've done this, as I've taken this stuff apart for many, many years, lights are one of the most common things in all kinds of experiences. I've noticed even people who have Bigfoot encounters oftentimes will have seen lights in the same area. And, you say you see a UFO, but if you take that out of context of being alien and think of it as being a light, an anomalous light from something, then it's not as weird that it might be connected to Bigfoot, especially if in some cases Bigfoot's not just an ape.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't really like travel down that road too much, but it's, and there's a lot of natural things too that it could be. Like, I just saw this really good video of like ball lightning. It was posted on one of the Bigfoot pages, and it's very super rare, but it's out there. I know swamp gas can create these kind of orbish like things. So you can't dismiss it until until you can't explain it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very scientific when it comes to investigations and stuff. Like, when it, like that UFO or like just like the ghost thing, the same thing. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, I could rule out that if it is actually what I saw and I wasn't going crazy, which I don't think I was having like a psychotic break or anything.
Right.
Like, that could not be anything that I know of. And I do the same thing with Bigfoot. I've gotten recorded vocalizations. High Point State Park was a great one. Up in the Catskills was the best vocalization we've ever received. And, we recorded it, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So, I do my due diligence, and before I post anything or before I comment on it, I want to make sure that I'm right about that. So I send it away for like a peer review type thing, and I send it to this guy, Devin, who's a linguist for the military, and he analyzes Bigfoot audio that comes his way, and he wrote me back like a 2-page email about this, and he stated that because of this, and this, that it was not a person and it was no known animal.
Nice.
So it's like, that's so cool. Like, like that rules out that, because the thing, one of the things that it did, one of the characteristics of a Bigfoot call is that they change vowels when they vocalize. If they do a howl, majority of the time howls start as like an O, long O, like ooh, and then they change to a ah. Animals can't do that. So it's like, this thing, it did it. So that rules out animals right there, and then the people can do that, but this was much, it had more bass and volume than a person can get. So right. It's like, come on. I have a hair, I'm holding it right now. I have a hair sample from Michigan in 2014, and it came back like they sent it off to a DNA lab, and it came back unknown primate. Like, it's that kind of things that like get you to say, and maybe there is something a little bit more to this than people think.
And okay, so you had the hair sample. Have you found anything else? Have you ever gotten any good prints or anything like that?
Yeah, got some good prints. You can see all of them on the Sussex County Bigfoot New Jersey page. It's a Facebook page, Sussex County NJ. Okay. So it's Sussex County Bigfoot NJ, and you can scroll through the pictures and see some ones that we've found and some other people have posted from Sussex County. I've seen a lot of casts on my adventures out, speaking to witnesses, and some of them are very remarkable. And it's crazy. Like I said, we were just down in West Virginia, and this guy, he pulls a cast out, and there's hair still in it, like in the cast itself, and the thing is like 18 inches long. And I'm looking at this hair, and I'm like, he says that he sent it out, and it came back, unknown primate again. from a cast that he took from the ground. That's remarkable. Now, so that's 2 pieces of evidence literally on top of each other. That's cool. And I've found scat, and one of the reasons why I'm probably single is because I will take it home. I don't have the money. We don't have the funds, unfortunately, to get them analyzed, but I do have a collection of possible Bigfoot scat. I do have a portion in the closet for that. Again, single, can put the 2 and 2 together. But yeah, I mean, I've not found hair per se. I've not collected any hair because hair's very hard to come by. You have to be in the right place at the right time, and usually when you find hair, it's around a really recent sighting or on like some sort of fence or something like that. And I just haven't had that opportunity to find any hair samples yet.
Well, you said you had the one.
Well, the one, yeah, it was sent to me. I didn't collect it.
Oh, okay, it was sent to you.
Yeah. One of my older friends sent it to me. So it was
gotcha. Cool. Have you ever been out in the woods and had that sudden silence where it just feels like something is watching you? You feel that sense of oppression or anything? Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I did post a YouTube video about that. And it's I forget what I called it. It's on my channel though. It's like something's happening or what's happening to me or something like that. And the way I like to describe it to people is I am okay. I am more than comfortable being in the woods by myself. I find it relaxing. I love to hike at night by myself. I love to camp by myself. And I'm totally okay and at peace and at ease when I do that. Now, there was this one time, and this has happened multiple times. That's why I made a video about it. But I was recording this time, and I was hiking on this trail, and I passed this one area. There was a new tree break because I was on this trail like 2 weeks prior to that, and I didn't see this tree break. But there was a tree break. It was bent like at a 90-degree angle, and then I walked past that, and then all of a sudden, kind of like that when the ghost thing happened, but everything got silent, and the hair stood up on the back of my head, and I was like, I got goosebumps, and I was like, oh crap, like something that I can't describe it, but something happened, and I am no longer. I don't want to go forward at all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to keep doing this hike because I had a whole hike planned out. My ride dropped me off. Like, I didn't have a car there or anything. I got out of there so quick and went back, to the starting point because something told me that if I were to go further, something bad was going to happen. And, since I've released that video, a lot of people have commented on it, and, they have said the same thing, and they relate it closely to there being a Bigfoot around. And there's people that say that Bigfoot kind of can emit this like infrasound, it's called, and humans can't hear it, but other primates are known to do it, as well as the other large apex predators. Mm-hmm. And they kind of emit this like very low hum type thing. And again, it's not picked up by human ears, but it could give you this sense of unease and the sense of like, just changing environment. And, I don't know if that's what it was, but all I do know for a fact is like new tree break, walked a little bit further, and then had to get out of there. So, and the whole video is up on the YouTube page. Again, you can check that out if anybody's interested. It's cool. It's different, and that doesn't happen often. It happened, I could count on my, 4 or 5 times it's happened to me in my whole career of being in the woods. So it's not like, it's, I don't know, it's not just because I'm scared, because like I said, I've been solo camping and hiking. I can't tell you how many times it's happened.
It's a very distinct feeling. It's not something that you're just kind of mistaking or getting a little nervous for some reason. It's a very overwhelming sort of thing.
No, it is. And it's and I don't know, I guess us as humans would take that as it as like a fight or flight response, because it's not something that we deal with normally. It's not like a normal feeling. So, fight or flight, I was out of there.
Probably the best move.
Yeah, and that's what people are saying. If your body tells you something's going on and it's not good, then listen to it. And I tell people as an EMT, you know your body better than anybody else. If you think something's wrong with it, then something's wrong with it. Simple as that.
Now, earlier when I asked you if the stones were warm, you said there was something else with that.
Okay, so yeah, this exact same trail that I was hiking on, that I got this feeling, and one of the reasons why I frequent that area, and I could tell you that tree break wasn't there, is because I go there all the time because it's such a great area. And me and I think there were 5 other people. We were doing an investigation. It was late at night, and we go down this one trail, and I was like, I'm looking at the map, and I had planned this out for a while. I said, okay, we're going to go sit here because there's a swamp down below us, and there's a mountain behind us. So I'm thinking it's nighttime. The Bigfoot probably are more active at night. So they're going to be trying to like feed on stuff that goes down into the swamp. So the deer are going to bed down there. There's going to be frogs. There's going to be an abundance of food source down in the swamp. So we get out there, we hike back there a ways, and we find this downed tree, and we all sit on this tree, and we're all facing the swamp, and we sit there for like a half hour, 45 minutes in silence. Nothing happens. And finally, like I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of boring. Let's keep going down the trail. And right before any of that happened, you hear this. It turns out to be a rock, but it thud and rolled down the hill behind us. Like I said, we were all facing the swamp, so we immediately it landed. It rolled in between my leg and Heather's leg, who was sitting right next to me. Is a little bigger than fist size, and we all immediately got up, turned around, lights on. We're looking, we got the thermal imaging camera. We're looking, where this thing could have, came from, and we looked down at the rock, and the rock was significantly warmer than all the other rocks around. So, to me, that's kind of evidence that something either rocks are normally hot at night because they collect sun throughout the day, but this was hotter than all the other rocks. So it's like something had to transmit heat to this rock. And I think that the Bigfoot was probably holding it for a certain amount of time, and then when the time was right, or whenever it felt necessary, it kind of tumbled this rock down towards us. And it was the coolest thing. I went back up there after that, and we hiked up this hill, and there was a big divot in the ground that right where the thing could have hid, and that's why we didn't see it when we turned around immediately. There was no thermal imaging. The thing probably did a little chuck over its shoulder and then got down. But it was cool. That rock was significantly hotter than anything else, and that kind of lends credence to, puts more scientific data, if you will, behind the fact that, it's an actual physical being and has it's warm-blooded type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really cool. And it was just, it's that little bit more that's like, come on, like, it's gotta be something behind it. It's gotta be.
One of the things I like to do is I like to compare different unknown phenomena, and I usually start with parapsychological stuff, simply because we have data for that, like scientific data for that type of stuff.
Sure.
And one of the things I find is a lot of the Bigfoot encounters, like a lot of the stuff you've described, also fits poltergeist encounters. Okay, yeah. You get stones thrown, and when stones or anything apports in a poltergeist encounter, they're generally very warm.
Okay.
You get vocalizations, you get mimicry, you get knocking. It doesn't mean that this is what it is, but I wonder, at least in some cases, if being out in nature and stuff, and especially in certain areas, draws out that energy in us and creates a poltergeist.
I mean,
I know it's completely contrary to how you're thinking about it, but I just like to kind of, mix and match these things and see where they fit.
Right. I mean, it does fit together. I mean, the puzzle pieces do match.
It does not, however, explain the eyes you saw.
And it doesn't explain the footprints that are found and the hair samples that come back.
Right. That's why I say I think there might be more than one thing going on.
It could be. It very well could be. We were camping up in Whitehall. We were on some private property. This was years ago, totally different than the other times I've been up at Whitehall. And that property that we were camping on, I guess in the Civil War was very active, and there were a lot of people that were killed up in Whitehall during the Revolutionary War. I don't want to call him a kid, but a teenager. He was sleeping in a cabin with us up in the back of this property, and he was saying about how he 100% saw a ghost of a full body apparition of this soldier from the Revolutionary War that just was walking towards him, and that's, we went to this property because of the high reports of activity that they were having, Bigfoot activity.
Right.
So, you put two together, like, does this family really have paranormal and Bigfoot activity going on at the same time, or are they somehow related? That's a very, very good concept to think about.
And one of the things they find with parapsychological stuff is that it's heightened when emotions are heightened. So like your first adventure out there, your emotions were really heightened, and then you had this activity that all would potentially fit a poltergeist.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And paranormal stuff tends to happen during times of liminality. So dusk, dawn, or periods of your life that are changing. Like I found most of the weird experiences in my life have coincided with drastic shifts in my life. And from what you were saying, had you just moved to Florida?
No, I had just moved to Tampa.
Okay, but you had just moved.
Yeah, right.
And gotten out of a relationship, putting you in somewhat of a liminal state.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying, and it does make sense. I mean,
totally does not mean it wasn't a Bigfoot. I'm just saying, like, there are commonalities here that are interesting to look at.
Yeah. And with that being said, nobody is. I'm surprised you're the first person to bring that to my attention. That poltergeist activity, again, with my limited knowledge of the paranormal, can be related to stuff that Bigfoot does, and that's interesting. That now I'm going to be up all night thinking about that. So thank you.
My friend Joshua Cutchin renamed it the Wilderness Poltergeist.
Yeah, I get it.
Have you seen tree formations and things like that as well?
Yes. I don't put a lot of weight behind tree formations and stick structures and tree breaks unless they're really, really good. I see on Facebook all the time where someone posts that a tree was bent or, whatever. And nobody has ever seen a Bigfoot bend a tree or break a tree. Well, I can't say that. There are reports of that.
Yeah.
But no one's ever seen Bigfoot make anything like that, and even like with the tree knocks, nobody has ever seen a Bigfoot knock on a tree. That's why, in my opinion, they don't knock. I think they clap. I think they have the ability for. That's kind of going back to that Salt Fork thing, the hollow sounding. I think that was actually, instead of a stick being hit against a tree, I think that was like them clapping. You can get that kind of hollowish sound.
Yeah.
But going back to the tree formations, I've found some very close to where I live that are the trees are not big, but bigger than saplings. Not quite trees yet, but they're interwoven together. There's other sticks through them and behind them and around, just stuff that is weird. And, I was like, man, I would love to see the storm that came through here to do that.
Right.
Like that had to be like the craziest thing. And so I brought a couple people back there. I think I brought 4 other people back there, plus myself. And we went to a different area. We all went and looked at that area. We documented it and everything. Then we went just a little bit down the trail, and we found kind of like the same type of trees, and we tried to recreate this. and with 5 people we couldn't do it. And getting into that area years later, I was kind of like the other trail. I've been down this trail 100 times, and I was down there one time, and going back to the structure just to see if it changed. And then a week later, I went down the same trail just as I normally do, because I left a gift for it, so I wanted to see if it was maneuvered or manipulated anyhow. And there was a tree that was legitimately, it was a dead tree, but it was upside down, suspended upside down, and the top of the tree was obviously pushed into the ground, and where the root system would be was up 20 feet in the air. I have pictures of it on the Sussex County page. It's absolutely insane, and there was no storms that came through there that week. It wasn't there the week before, so it's other things that make you go
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
A person couldn't do it. It's just it was outside of human range, and people argue that, well, what if this guy had a bulldozer? Yeah, okay, I get that. You can't rule it out, but I mean, if you or I went into the woods and tried to do half the things that that I've found, it's man, you got to have that's hard,
Yeah.
But for a Bigfoot with what I'm assuming is amazing, almost non-comprehensible strength for humans, it could easily do something like that.
Right.
So I don't.
Now you have for the people hearing this early enough, you have something going on this coming Sunday, which would be the 16th of February.
Correct. Yes. For those of you listening, that before the 16th or on the 16th, we have a really cool thing. It's our season finale episode, and this year we're going to do it. We're going to have a huge online party. So the way it's going to work is go on to, if you're hearing this live or hearing it before Sunday, go on to my YouTube page, subscribe, scroll down a little bit, and click on the contest. The contest, all the rules are I go over all the rules in the video, but basically what you're going to do is guess how many miles I traveled last year in my personal vehicle through all the expeditions. And then you're going to comment down below the video, give me your best guess. We're going to do Price is Right rules. Closest without going over is going to win. And what you will win is you'll get to come out with us and film an episode and go bigfooting for a long weekend. So anyways, go do that now. And then at 8 o'clock on Sunday night, I'm going to be live on YouTube, interacting. We're going to have, there's going to be giveaways. I'm going to ask some trivia questions, and you could, whoever's listening can guess, and whoever gets it right, I'll send you some stuff, then at 8:40, we're going to announce the winner of the big contest, and whoever that may be. And then I'm going to head offline for about 15 minutes, and then I'll be back live chatting at 9 o'clock when the season finale episode comes out. And that's a really good, cool episode. That one, that's the West Virginia episode. And it's probably one of the better episodes that we've done. I'm not going to get into it. You'll see when
okay.
You watch it.
All right. And so tell people the where they need to go.
Yeah, if you just go on YouTube, our channel is Sussex County Bigfoot, or you can just type in Shadow of Redeye. A lot of makeup tutorials. Don't look for the makeup ones. Look for the Bigfoot ones. We have an Instagram, Shadow of Redeye. We post some kind of behind the scenes things there that I'm not gonna post on Facebook or YouTube. And then on Facebook is In the Shadow of Big Redeye. Go ahead and like us, and don't forget, when you're on our YouTube, subscribe to us too. We're getting just this past week we've really jumped up a lot with our followers, subscriptions and watches and everything. So nice. This is going to we're at the point in our show where this is gonna go big, I think, and cool. I want you all to be a part of that. And like I said, if you're listening, and we're going to have contests like this throughout the year. So if you miss this one, if you're hearing this podcast a little late, or this radio show a little late, then don't worry. you're still gonna be included. And the way you do that is just subscribe on Facebook and click that notification button. And each time we have something awesome, a giveaway or a contest, and you'll get notified about it.
Okay. And is it the Shadow of Redeye or Shadow of Big Redeye?
Shadow of Big Redeye.
Okay. And the Facebook is what?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Instagram is Shadow of Redeye. Our Facebook is In the Shadow of Big Redeye, and our YouTube is Sussex County Bigfoot.
Okay. And the contest is on the Facebook.
Contest is on YouTube.
On YouTube. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't realize you could do that on YouTube. Okay. I assumed it was on your Facebook.
Nope. Yep. Just whoever wants to participate in the contest, all you got to do is watch the video, see the rules, see where I went, and then you could comment below that video. And like I said, Sunday night before the season finale episode at 9 p.m., I'm going to be live on YouTube answering questions, doing some giveaways, and at 8:40, I am going to announce the winner. Whoever was closest without going over to those miles is going to be announced, and then from there we're going to go right into the season finale episode. So it's going to be a good night. It's going to be fun. I hope you're going to join us, and I hope everybody else that can and is able to is going to join us as well.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for spending some time with us, Mike.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. It was very interesting and fun. You're different kind of take on things, and I like that. That's good.
And I want to take a moment to give a special shout out to my Patreons, without whom this show may not exist the way it is. And to those of you pledging $10 or more, an extra special thanks: Allison Cook, Super Inframan, Tim, Luke Osborne, Rob Drummond, Alex Whitcomb, Nadine, Damian Tallman, Edu Camelhort, Tactical Therapist, Janet Bunderson, 36 Dingo, Maria, Jennifer Campbell, American Rambler, Kevin, John Rutledge Foster, Eric Citron, Ray Benedetto, Stone Wilderness, Andy McNamara, Sasha Ljorg, Matthias Sumby, Dominic O'Malley, Christopher Vaughn, Riker and Stark, Sean Cosgrove, Jose A., Roger Gonzalez, Craig Cicernos, Lindsey Jackson K., Alfred Tuttle, Kevin Schreck, Patricia Giaquinta, William Lovelace, Mark Brady, Chris is a hot dog a sandwich, and Carla Mahoney. Thank you all so very much. You have been listening to Where Did the Road Go? This show is made possible in part from our Patreons, and we thank you and everyone listening for helping us continue this exploration of the strange. You can always find everything Where Did the Road Go related at www.wheredidtheroadgo.com. And thank you so much for your support.